Welcome to Lyme Time. I'm Allie from the Tick Chicks. We are all more than Lyme disease and chronic illness, and together we stand with you to overcome and rise. I'll bring you closer to the experts in cutting-edge treatments and even a few unexpected ways of healing. I'll ask the questions you want answers to regarding Lyme disease and successful ways of getting you closer to 100%. We are in this together and will not be defined by Lyme.
Today on Lyme Time, I am thrilled to have two extraordinary people that I am honored to have this conversation with in the Lyme disease community. First of all, I have Kelley Higney, and Kelley is the founder and CEO of Bug Bite Thing, which I know you guys have heard me talk about. In 2013, Higney's family relocated from San Diego, California to South Florida. And there was one thing they were not prepared for: the mosquitoes. Her 6-month-old daughter was constantly suffering from severe reactions to the bites. Higney set out to find an effective natural solution and began conducting research. She ordered an unfamiliar product that uses suction to remove the irritant that not only worked, it transformed the quality of life for her family. They could finally spend time outdoors. Imagine that. In 2017, she secured exclusive distribution rights to the product and branded it Bug Bite Thing. The company gained national recognition in October 2019 when Higney and her mother, Ellen McAllister, appeared on ABC's hit show, Shark Tank. All the sharks were biting with offers to invest in the business, but it was Lori Greiner's golden ticket offer that secured the partnership. In April 2021, Higney and her mother returned to Shark Tank. This time, they shared details on the company's transformation into a multi-million-dollar enterprise following their first appearance on the show. Bug Bite Thing is Amazon's #1 selling product for insect bite relief with over 90,000 reviews. Holy moly. In the summer of 23, the company expanded beyond the insect bite relief industry to the pet and flea and tick products industries with the introduction of Bug Bite Thing tick remover for people and pets. Higney remains a mom on a mission to provide consumers with effective, chemical-free first aid products. She is a member of the Fast Company Executive Board and Forbes Business Council. She is also the recipient of numerous awards, including 2 Gold Stevie Awards in the Consumer Products category, Woman of the Year, and Best Entrepreneur by the 2023 American Business Awards, and named a top Mama
Panista.
I am sorry.
No, you're fine. I don't honestly.
Very intimidating word.
I know, I agree.
By the 2022 Entreprenista 100. Higney is active within the South Florida business community, where she resides with her husband, Richard, and their daughters, Leah and Lily. Welcome, Kelley.
Thank you so much for having me
on.
Oh
my goodness. What I insist on reading every word of that bio because it's all so important and so impressive. And then I'm also welcoming at the same time Laura MacNeill, and you may recognize Laura from some of our chats before, but Laura assumed the role of Chief Executive Officer of Global Lyme Alliance in 2022. As CEO, she heads the leading private nonprofit dedicated to Lyme and tick-borne research, awareness, and empowering the patient voice. Laura directs overall strategy, operations, and fundraising to increase awareness and hasten advances in diagnostics and treatments with the ultimate goal of finding a cure for Lyme and tick-borne diseases. Laura joined GLA from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, where she previously served as executive director, supporting the New England region. MacNeill was also executive director of the Central Pennsylvania chapter 3 years prior. She brings nearly 17 years of experience as a senior executive executing strategic nonprofit planning, innovative marketing, fundraising, and raising public awareness for the largest voluntary health organization dedicated to fighting blood cancer worldwide. So I welcome Kelley and Laura. Laura, welcome again.
Thank you, Allie. Good to
Oh
see you
my
again.
gosh. Well, yeah, I am just thrilled to have both of you together because this is a new venture where you are all combining efforts into doing something really, really positive for our Lyme disease community. And we want to talk about that merging of the two of you in just a second. But first of all, I think it's important to cover the Bug Bite Thing brand and hear from Kelley sort of your own personal journey and how you came to really developing these products and then take them even further with GLA.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you for having me on. And Laura, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us again. My journey is pretty grassroots. I grew up in San Diego, California. I've known my husband since 7th grade, grew up in a very small town. And when we were very young adults, back in, 2012, we had our first daughter, Leah. And when she was about 6 months old, we got the opportunity to relocate from San Diego out to South Florida. My mom was an entrepreneur. I grew up in an office. My grandmother was an entrepreneur. So it was always around me. And so I was getting to be able to start learning the family-owned business. So that's what prompted the move. My husband got a job working at a consulting company, and we were kind of excited for the new chapter. Beautiful weather, and almost instantly, my daughter, who was 6 months old at the time, started getting bit by mosquitoes. And, back in San Diego, we would get, bug bites and things like that, but never to a point where it was affecting our day-to-day life. And what was happening was my daughter would get one mosquito bite and it would turn into a massive golf ball size welt. We'd immediately end up in the doctor's office on some type of antibiotic or steroid treatment. I was putting over-the-counter creams on her and preventatives, and a lot of them were full of chemicals. And she was a baby. She was sticking things in her mouth. And it wasn't sitting right with me. So I started, after trying every home remedy and, snake oil treatment available on Pinterest, nothing was working. So I started researching how other countries were combating insect bites. And I came across a little known suction tool that was being sold through some industrial first aid kits. And I said, there's no way that's going to work. Because the premise behind it was if you get bit by a mosquito, they're actually injecting, their saliva to help with the feeding process. Your body's reacting to, the irritant underneath the surface of the skin. So if you can extract some of that irritant, your reactions can be mitigated. But again, something so simple and chemical free, why wouldn't it be available everywhere first, right? As our first line of defense. So ordered one in, not thinking much of it. Got a bite on the way to the mailbox because I also suffer horrendously from mosquito bites. But obviously, I can deal with the uncomfortableness and pain, and my husband can deal with the complaining. My daughter was dealing with it. It was a different ballgame. So got a bite on the way to the mailbox. The tool had come in and I used it, and I was shocked. It was almost like jaw on ground because I felt the product working. And I'm like, this is bizarre. I'm like, I felt the sensation. Immediately, the welt never formed. The itching stopped. It never was created. And I said, there's no way. Still, I was not convinced. So started trying it on my daughter, who was my real, case study. And the sooner I would catch the bite, her reactions just started to become eliminated, to the point where we weren't even in the doctors anymore. And now I was purposefully looking every single time, we would come back inside. And if there was any indication of a bug bite or her rubbing, I would use it, and then it would not form. So started doing that, and it was completely life-changing for me and my family. We were starting to enjoy the outdoors again. And I just, had my little suction tool as a consumer, but it became part of my daily life. And obviously started just out of natural, mom reaction. My daughter started preschool. I started talking to other moms, and they were all dealing with the same thing. So I'm sitting here advocating for this suction tool I ordered. So I said, what would happen if I tracked down the factory making the product and see if I can order some for my local community? Just at, I was going to sell them at bake sales and farmers markets, at the time. And so I ended up tracking down the factory, who's now converted, and they have their bug bite thing Europe now. So we kept them a part of our journey, which is excellent. And I pitched in my idea. The first start of it was I ordered a very, very small sample batch, and I started selling them at my daughter's bake sales every Friday. And then I started getting tracked down in the parking lot during non-bake sale days. Then I started getting a line out of the back of my car, like 30 minutes before school was even out. And that's when I, really was able to gauge consumer feedback. It was life-changing for just my own little network of people. They were telling their friends and family. It started spreading very quickly in our own community. And that was the pivotal moment that I became passionate about it, because it was helping just my own local community. So in order for me to go all in, my husband and I made the crazy and difficult decision to sell our house and invest that money in our first big batch of inventory, which was around 10,000 units at the time. And I branded the product Bug Bite Thing, and I launched it. I started teaching myself social media marketing, and it caught the attention of a news reporter from CBS 12, Luli Ortiz. I always say it because I still connect with her, and she changed my life, but she took a chance and she came out to my rental house, because I was in a rental while I sold my house, and did an amazing news piece on me. And it aired Mother's Day weekend, and it was syndicated to over 30 news stations. And I sold out of all the inventory I had sold my house for in less than 6-7 days. Everything was sold out. And that was my first big, whoa, what's happening here, and how many people are, suffering? And that was, I never was in it really. My focus wasn't, I'm going to start a brand and a product and make a bunch of money. It was, these are people in my own community dealing with the same thing. They're at the doctor's office. They're suffering. They're, fearful of putting chemicals on their kids all day. So I had a solution, and I couldn't not share that with people, especially after I started getting all that feedback from that first sell through, Eva. It was insane. People were telling me just life-changing stories, all different types, from bee stings. Their kid was at the park with a bunch of kids, started screaming in pain from a bee sting. They would pull their suction tool out, suck out the venom, and then their kid would go back and play. And that was like over and over and over again. And it was just very eye-opening. So that kept driving me right at that beginning. And I just followed my community's lead. They kept talking to me. They told me how they were understanding the product. They told me the verbiage. They told me how to market it to other people. They were giving the firsthand testimonials. And I always just catered to them. And what's interesting is the way that I ended up developing the infrastructure enabled me to be able to tag all the comments that were coming in. So I can almost pull like an analysis to see what everybody was saying in bulk. And that was very eye-opening. So even at the beginning stages, people were talking about ticks and tick remover, even though our product was specifically for mosquitoes and mosquito bites and, bee stings and ants and some other types of insects, but not ticks. Okay. And so we had this big media hit. We sold through all the inventory. I began the business, and that caught the attention of Shark Tank. They encouraged me to audition for the show. I was terrified. I wasn't going to go on. I was like, how am I going to do this? But I knew that if I could just get my messaging out to people that were suffering, and offered 100% money back guarantee, which I still do to this day. I just want people to try it if they're really suffering. And if it doesn't work, send it back. And so we went on the show. My mom went on the show with me, and we received offers from all the sharks. Lori Grenier gave us her golden ticket, which she gives out one time per season. And that was pretty life-changing for the brand and the company. So I began very quickly trying to figure out how to grow, assemble, scale, create infrastructure for what was happening after that Shark Tank rush. So similarly, like what I was doing on a very small scale, still following my community and tagging everything, after that Shark Tank airing, the tick situation got dramatically more increased. And we were finding trends very quickly that people were using our suction tool on tick bites to help with the irritation after them. But then I started seeing people were removing ticks with our suction tool. And that was a big red flag because this is new territory for me. I work with, on the other side with the other, it was new territory for me. And I started observing our own community's threads and, their feedback and what they were saying. And there was so much confusion around ticks, tick-borne illness, Lyme disease, how to properly remove ticks. People just they don't know. And I kept seeing even our own community say one thing, and then 10 more people would think that was true. And then they would tell somebody else in our community. And I'm like, this is not. And I needed to make sure, our community was always our focus. So I'm like, how do I get the right answers for this? Because even when I'm looking online, there's so many different articles and contradicting information. So after Shark Tank aired, we had our momentum, everything was happening. And that's when I said, we've got to do something about this. And so after Shark Tank aired, we had a gentleman, Dan Wolf, and he had created and invented a product. He's a tick expert with over 20 years of tick experience, and he had created a product that met our community's guidelines. They were telling us they were having issues with specific type of tick removal tools. They were telling us the issues they were having. And then after, we started consulting with experts and things in this area, that's when we knew we needed to bring a tick remover to the market. So at least people could remove ticks properly, which can help mitigate risk of transmission. I'm seeing in our own community, people squeezing the back of the tick, which now, fast forward with the education I learned is the worst thing you can possibly do. Mm-hmm. So it brought us down a rabbit hole. And so Dan Wolf, reached out to us after seeing Shark Tank and our product in retail. And he said, I've got a great tick remover. We did the evaluation through our own system of what we were looking for based off our community's feedback. And it was a great match. So we ended up acquiring his company, Tick Ease. And then we soft launched our tick remover. We rebranded it Bug Bite Thing Tick Remover. And we soft launched it last year. And the information, again, was very, very mixed, meaning confusion on what to do after you remove the tick. How do you save the tick? Do you throw away the tick? Do you go to do I send it in a Facebook group and get it identified? So there was just another new batch of questions and confusion. So I said, instead of just consulting with the experts, I'm going to actually create a program that we can teach the public the right way, right from the experts, right, from the source, just as a middleman. So that began the process of our program, which we now call Guardians Against Ticks. So we've been able to recruit a series of just amazing experts, including Laura MacNeill, from GLA, the CEO of GLA, and, some pretty amazing people. And we had our first annual summit this year that we kicked off out in New England. And it was just a wealth of information and knowledge. And we're working really hard now to establish a protocol from start to finish that we can, be messaging to communities. Before you're out in the woods, this is what you should do to protect yourself. you're not safe in all 50 states, you know, in one state or another, because there's ticks in all 50 states. You know, here are some ways you can mitigate risk. Here are some ways if you don't have the right gear or clothing that you can help mitigate the risk, even as far as walking in the middle of a trail versus the side of the trail where ticks hang out. So just that all the way to what do you do if you get a tick? Interesting story while we were at that summit. Ironically, and Laura's going to laugh at this, Richard got a tick. My husband got a tick. So we went tick flagging and we were so beyond careful, so precautious. We did our tick checks. We were following our protocol, but to be honest, he got a tick. It had slipped somehow in his shoe and must have crawled between his shoe and right at where his sock was like tucked in, and right where the little piece of skin was where it embedded. And even knowing after the summit, everything I knew about ticks and tick removal and Lyme disease and everything, I panicked. And I immediately felt how my community was feeling and how my customers were feeling, because you just want it off of you. And you're like, oh, what do I do? I'm freaking out. So after I just said, calm down, let's just follow our own practice, right? So we stayed calm. We went and got the right tick removal tools, so we, you know, weren't increasing our risk. We removed it. And then the first thing we did was identify it. And by identifying and understanding the different life stages of a tick, the different species of a tick, the location, the size, how long we think it could have been attached for, it immediately ruled out things that I was fearful of, brought myself peace of mind, and then I knew what to look for in the next few days. And then if something happened where I knew what to look for, I knew what to do next. And it just would empower so many people if they knew just those things, right? I mean, there's free services all over where you can get ticks identified by experts, not people who think they're experts, because after learning what I learned, there is a lot more to identifying ticks, you know, than people think. And that's a critical step. So essentially, we've been working really hard, you know, through educational material. We've got some series coming out from that actual summit that has just a wealth of information from our tick experts. You know, Laura obviously does, she'll talk in this, but she did an amazing job really answering some of our own community's questions that were coming in. And again, our goal is just to, you know, utilize our community, our Shark Tank community. Lori is beyond excited, you know, about this venture that we're going to be able to help people just at least establish peace of mind and know what to do and what's real and what's not real.
I love
so
that story. What a story of success from, you know, something that is in all of our lives. Nobody's not bit by something, you know, on vacation or in their day-to-day life. And it's something as really relatively as simple as this is it. It's just a little plastic suction tool. I have to ask this question because this is not necessarily for ticks.
No, so people use it. That is not our.
But I mean, after the tick is removed,
so our community, we don't have the testing on it yet, but our community is using it like crazy. So we're gathering insights right now live, and people are saying it helps, you know, with the irritation, the itching after it. But we have to be very careful. I don't have enough information on the validity of that yet. So we always tell our community, remove, you know, the tick properly with our tick remover, which you know, has fine tip tweezers. It actually, the way it's designed makes it even easier to remove a tick with fine tip tweezers, because it's got almost like a angled edge. So it's almost a guide. So if you have a tick, I know this is a terrible example. If you have a tick like embedded, you want to get as close to the skin as possible, and you just want to pull up with slow, even pressure. You don't want to squeeze the back, and you want to get as close to the skin and, you know, prevent any type of just quick, easy, simple tick removal, as quick as you notice the tick.
I love it because it's not only good for humans, it's great for pets as well. It has two sides, one for
Yes.
humans, one for
So the
pets,
slotted scoop
or
side works phenomenal on pets.
on the bigger ticks. And okay, so let me just
Yes, sorry.
give my own personal testimonial here, but
Yeah.
I realize I'm now realizing, maybe I don't know, but I always go to the lake. I go multiple times a year. We have a house, we have a lake house, and everybody, knows that I go there. And I got a tick bite about 5 years ago, a second tick bite. So I knew exactly what to do. Although that little guy was so tiny and so aggressive and just so tiny. And sure enough, 48 hours later, I come down with symptoms. But I did know exactly what to do. So anyway, since then, I've been a fanatic. I get the yard sprayed. I get the sides of the house sprayed. I put my tick tubes down. We wear all the clothing. We come in, we put all the clothes in the dryer on the high heat for, everybody says to do it for an hour. I do it 2 hours and I don't care. And then, my husband got in the shower, scrubbed down, scrubbed down, scrubbed down. Lo and behold, he not only got one tick, he got two ticks. And so anyway, there we were. And I'm thinking to myself, and Kelley, what you said was so true. When you have been affected by a tick and a tick bite in the past, it's really easy to get panicked.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have your wits about yourself in order to fully get the tick out the way it needs to be properly removed. So I did. I went in, I had just gotten this and I put it in my luggage and it came all the way to my lake house with me. And I went in and I just was like calmly pulled out these two ticks. Now, that was fine. I was able to, because you can, this tool is so wonderful. It holds onto the tick really well because they're squirming like crazy afterwards. And I was able to save it in a Ziploc bag and send it off for testing.
Good.
But I did something crazy, and I did this guy after because and I could tell that the tick head was not embedded. That's probably really important to note here. I had removed both ticks fully with the heads on. And then I did the section tool, which kind of, I just said, you know what, like the venom's in there. Let's just try this. And I did that. So I don't know if it was the combination of the two or what, but he never had any symptoms. It's totally symptom free. And by the way, I kept asking him the day after, the next day, the next day, the next day, are you itching? Is it itchy?
Yeah.
Because I felt like if it was itchy and inflamed, that maybe, I hadn't gotten all the stuff. But he kept saying, no. And I mean, the bug bite, it went down to a flat surface. When I had been bit 5 years before that, the bump alone was bigger than the tick. And it lasted for literally weeks. And it was very, very painfully itchy.
Yep.
So anyway,
we hear stories like that every day, and that's what's prompting us to work with these experts to really understand, how everything will work together and how our community's insights. We have a very large community, so just gathering the masses and what they're saying is just it's helpful, especially in research for some of our professors and some of our PhDs and even just our partners. If we can provide what the public is saying and what our communities are saying in, by the tens of thousands, right, that can actually make change so we can create solutions or ways to educate better. And that's kind of what we're really focused on right now.
Absolutely. And as far as I'm concerned, this thing, keep doing the research with regard to ticks. Now, nobody's saying that this will prevent Lyme disease.
Correct.
Certainly. But what I am saying is it can relieve the some of the irritation that goes along with it. I am going to use it on mosquito bites this summer because I also had that random reactive
Yep.
um, situation that your daughter had, in that they would almost form blisters
Yep,
in a way.
they do. They're actual blisters, like and they're almost like orangey, and they're
Yeah.
raised.
And they last for a long time. It's
Yep.
not like it's like a really abnormal reaction to bug bites.
Yes, I
And
know.
the worst thing that I would do is get in the bathtub, and it would just start stinging so profoundly. So I am a big believer in your
Thank you.
product,
I
and I'm
appreciate that.
so lucky that I had them on hand. Had I
Yes.
had I really had my wits about myself, I would have had one on the boat, because it wasn't until my husband took his shirt off, it was in the middle of his back, where he could never have scrubbed
Yep.
on his own. And so the second he was about to jump in the lake, I was like, wait a minute, what is that? So I will have one on the boat the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But I want to talk a little bit about the wonderful partnership that you're embarking on with the Global Lyme Alliance, who is another just leader in the field, in the industry, and in research, and what that looks like. So Laura, I'll introduce you, and talk to us a little bit about, first of all, for those of those listening that are not familiar with GLA, can you tell us a little bit about that, and then talk about your partnership with Bug Bite Thing?
Yeah, so thank you again for having me.
Of course.
And Kelley, your story is so amazing. I think I heard pieces. I never heard it all together
Yeah.
like that. So just thank you for being you in such
Of
an
course.
entrepreneurial family too. That's very amazing. So Global Lyme Alliance is the leading nonprofit organization that's committed to helping those affected by Lyme and other tick-borne diseases. We were formed when parents and relatives of loved ones were impacted by Lyme and co-infections, and just insisted that things need to change. And that was decades ago, and we are still in the trenches in that fight, trying to advocate and be the voice for those that are suddenly and sometimes unaware of what caused a life-disrupting amount of symptoms, and having to be their own advocate to navigate the healthcare system back to health, and are often shifted around, shuffled, denied, not understood, not heard. And so that's where we come in. So our mission is to cure Lyme and other tick-borne diseases. We want to go out of business, like most nonprofits. And while we're doing that, we want to continue to empower the patient's voice on that journey. So, our big, bold vision is a world free of Lyme and other tick-borne diseases. It's just not an issue anymore. And so how we do that is we offer patient support and education initiatives right now. So, what can we do for folks that are in it right now? That's, most predominantly a peer-to-peer program, which if you're out there and you're like, wow, that is me, I'm lost and I don't know how to get out of this, or I've been in this for a long time and no one believes me. We have folks that have been through the tick-borne disease journey who are offering their time and experience back in a one-on-one mentorship. We try to pair you up as close as we can demographically. So, if you're a young mom with little kids and you're sick, and we'll try to get you with somebody who's similar, or if you're, someone who's a little bit older and retired, and, we'll try to pair you up, similar co-infection, similar symptoms, because the symptoms really do range quite broadly in this disease. So we do our best to find someone who can really provide that I've walked in your shoes level of empathy to help you through this today. The other big program we offer is our healthcare provider search. We get an average of 50 requests a day from people all over the world that are looking for physicians who can identify their issues, understand their symptoms, and get them on a path back to health. So we have a dedicated set of volunteers that have curated a list of physicians that are what we call Lyme literate medical doctors that we can offer those to you upon request. You just go to gla.org, you fill out a form, and you'll get an email with physicians that fit the criteria you're looking for. So just a few things about what you're experiencing through your symptoms, where you live, where you'd want to see a doctor, and we'll get you to the best person that will listen, right? Most importantly. And I think, obviously the most important thing that GLA does is we fund research, that viable research. We've been, a couple of things we want to talk about today. But it's like, man, we need research to back that up. And in this disease space, it's more important than ever that we have solid research, because of some of the misinformation we even talked about at the top of the podcast. Like, well, I heard, a tick can transmit bacteria within 6 hours. No, it's 12. No, it's 24. No, it's 48. No, it's 1. What is it? Those answers should be already readily available to the world. They're not. And so GLA is raising money all year long so that we can fund viable research to get these answers to the community, get them to the medical community, get them to CDC, so we all understand better what's happening here. And so this, collaboration, so I met Kelley at our gala last October. I asked her and her husband to come like literally on a whim. She had never been to New York before. And I was like, come and show up at this gala. And so, again, she's an entrepreneurial spirit. She's like, I'll be there. And so, which was wonderful because she got to really meet and experience people who are in this, who are on the other side of that tick bite, and their baseline of health has shifted dramatically ever since. They've never got back to what they were before that tick bite, and how lost and scary and sick that is. And so she got to hear a series of stories, and they all have a similar theme, but are coming from all different walks of life. Because as you said, Allie, it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter who you are. In fact, our chief scientific officer, Dr. Salati, who's been studying ticks for over 30 years, got his first case of Lyme disease last year. And, he was shutting down his pool and just didn't check that one time, and the tick got it, and he found the bullseye rash, luckily. But they really don't discriminate. It doesn't matter how educated you are, how well you check, and really, you don't have to go camping to get ticks on you. Yeah. So that was a misnomer I carried into this role. Like, well, I'm not going out into the woods, and if I do, I'll put tick spray on. Now it does not matter. Allie, I'm like you. I'm spraying my yard. My kids are getting tick prevention sprays anytime they go out. And this is, really, unless there's a deep freeze, especially in the Northeast, you need to be preventing yourself from tick bites. And, for us, when we met Kelley and we knew of this tool, we knew Dan before, but it was like, this is a no-brainer, because when you have a tool that you can physically hold, it puts that mindset of, I need to check for ticks, right? So have one in your boat, have one in your car, have one in your purse. These are so affordable for what they can do to give you that peace of mind, but also to remind you to check for ticks, because that span of time from when that tick gets on you till it can provide, a bacteria or parasite into your body is a very short window. And so just checking constantly is the most important thing that everyone can do. So this collaboration, we feel, will significantly enhance public awareness on prevention of tick-borne illness. There's still a lot of folks walking around out there saying, well, that's not my problem. It's like,
and we get it every day. And now we have a place of, I want to add to what Laura's saying,
Yeah.
The other huge benefit for this collaboration for us is we have a trusted source we can send people to. I can't tell you just in my own community how many people have gotten taken advantage of by people trying to play off of the misinformation and try to profit off of people's out of fear. And it just makes me sick. It really does, because there are people that are suffering. It's obvious there is, progress that's being made on the research end, and that information needs to be provided live, and communities need to hear it quickly. If I hear people lighting ticks one more time, we need to educate better. We need to show the science and the facts so these communities have trust, right, in back into what is critical that can actually prevent them from getting sick, and or help them on their journey if they are sick. So they even are thinking that could be a possibility if they weren't previously.
It's amazing how many people want to argue with you on the proper removal of a tick. I did something, I always do something every summer on the proper removal of a tick. And I even used your tool in the video, and everybody goes, oh my gosh, that's great. That's great. I never knew. And then there was all these comments that, Oh, I get bit multiple times this summer, and if I just put a little bit of Vaseline
Yep,
or
I hear
oil,
Vaseline. Yep.
essential oil is also, but and I'm like, yeah, they do come out. They do come out, but they come out after they've panicked and had time to regurgitate all that bacteria back into your body. And that's something that not everybody knows. If you grab it with the tweezers and pull out, they really don't have time.
No, you're catching them off guard, and it's quick and simple. Simple is better. And what's so crazy is even during the summit, one of our partners, Dr. It's Killinger, Laura.
Paul, yeah.
Paul, thank you. I was going to call him Dr. Killinger. Paul took us through his lab, and he does tick testing, and he was showing me all of the ticks that have physically been embedded on people. And then they send them in for the tick testing, and there's a process before essentially the tick gets shooken up with like a little ball. But he was showing me the images, and he could show me the ticks that were removed improperly and why. And a big thing was household tweezers. People were removing ticks with household tweezers, but you can see the indent of literally right where their stomach is instead of right where you would want to remove it to prevent any type of transmission or at least increase your risk. So, I mean, there's so much education that needs to happen, and then be able to show that right to the public and to the communities. Our partners, some of them are working with, NUVAC. He's working with the CDC. They're really trying to get the right education out to the public. And by having all of these experts that are doing different things, GLA working specifically with, that and offering a different type of service versus NUVAC versus, tick testing as he's gathering his own set of information, which is, if we can bring all of that information together, mixed with the community's feedback and what they're saying online, we actually have a shot to make change and impact. And that's right. Kind of the focus on this Guardians Against Ticks program.
So this partnership between Bug Bite Thing and Global Lyme Alliance is called Guardians Against Ticks.
Yes.
And who specifically are the people and organizations involved?
So
and what are what's part of your campaign?
So we have Dr. Rich, who's a microbiology professor and Lauren's going to help me with this because there's a lot of really prestigious titles behind, and I need some help, Laura.
I don't know Dr. Rich's specific, well, he's a microbiology professor at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. And he worked with Paul Killinger, who we just mentioned, who's the CEO of Tick Report. And Tick Report is a diagnostic DNA tick lab. That's the lab that Kelley referenced that she toured out at UMass Amherst. And they get ticks from all over the world. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can send a tick to them and they can tell you, they keep it to a 6-hour window, but they know down to the hour how long that tick was on you. And what they do is they do DNA testing of what was in the belly of the tick, and they'll email you a report within 48 hours to say, hey, this tick didn't have anything in it, right? There's nothing in it. Or it only had anaplasmosis, and that's one of the co-infections that can come, and you're never going to get a bullseye rash from that bacterial infection. You're going to have more like GI issues and a recurring high fever, which could be played off depending on what time of year as just, man, I keep catching this bug, right? For a long time. So having that information to know what was inside that tick is really, really helpful as you go to your GP and say, hey, I've had these symptoms and there's this tick on me, and guess what? This is what was in its belly. Right. The other thing you're doing when you send a tick to them is you're telling them what was in the tick near you. And so they use all that information. You can go on their website and actually look by zip code of the ticks that have been sent in and what was inside of those ticks. Because it's community has it all, right?
And what's incredible is they save all of the ticks because research, and as they're developing and testing, they might want to go back and retest certain ticks and things. So they have they've tested over 120,000 ticks, and they're all frozen in a bunch of freezers that I got to tour. And I was in awe because they're really trying to unravel and uncover. And there's so many variants and variables. And, so the more information we could provide to them from what the public is saying, the more research they can conduct, which is where our partnership really, intertwines.
And I just want to add too, for those out there who don't really understand the relevance of testing the tick, it's better to pay a few dollars and get the tick tested and go ahead and do that, especially if you are symptomatic. But oftentimes I don't even wait for symptoms to occur because it can take a few days to get those reports back. But it's saving you money because God forbid you start developing a reaction and an infection from the tick bite and don't know what the tick was carrying. You're now going to have to pay upwards of $2,000 to get accurate information because they're working backwards. They're not working from the tick forward. They're trying to deduct through, testing what actually was embedded in the tick at the time.
Yeah.
So
they're starting at the symptoms. It's
important to note that it's actually going to save you money in the long run. Just know.
And the other interesting thing that I learned that I didn't know is ticks can carry multiple different things. So if, identifying and understanding everything gives you the power to now bring that information to your doctor or your medical provider and say, look, maybe it wasn't just this because it also has this. So at least you have things narrowed down and you have an upper hand. That tick is key. If you can keep on and hang on to that tick, what I always tell our community is once you remove it, keep it in a Ziploc bag and get it identified. And if there is a high risk, right? If it's been narrowed down and there's a high susceptibility that tick is carrying something, that's when you can go send it in for tick testing for that secondary peace of mind. But at minimum, do your tick checks, remove the tick the right way, and then save it and get it identified, because that first beginning phases can make a big difference in what happens on your tick journey. And that's kind of the consensus I'm getting across the board from everybody.
It's a great call out, Kelley. That's another big piece about your tool and how efficient it is at pulling the full tick out, because DNA preservation is key. If you're going to send it for tick testing, you don't want to send them, and they do get them, a mangled up, mushed up tick that's like they can't get anything out of it because it's smushed. And so the very best advice is remove it efficiently, quickly, and fully intact. Like you said, put it in a bag and put that little bag in your freezer. And then if you develop symptoms, send it as soon as you can. But if you want to wait, you can wait until you develop symptoms, and then you can send it on in.
Don't let that be your determining factor to save the tick or not if you're not ready to commit to tick testing, right? Just at least hold on to it.
Oh, they'll go dormant and stay in your freezer for a long, long time, and the DNA will be intact, and you can go back and visit another time. Our additional partner for this for this partnership is Dr. Thomas Mathers at University of Rhode Island Center for Vector-Borne Disease. And he runs a website called Tick Encounter. It's Tick Encounter Resource Center. And so if DNA tick testing isn't an option, or let's say I've heard people say, I got it out, but then I dropped it. Or let's say you get it out and you don't want to send it away. Okay. If you have a picture of that tick, even before you remove it, but if you pull it out and you can send a picture to him, his website is all visual. And Dr. Mathers looks at every single tick sent into his website.
Watched his process. It's incredible.
40 to 50 a day, and he can look at them, and in seconds he can tell you what tick it was, if it was male or female, if it could possibly carry disease, and what you should be looking out for based on where you are. He also has years and years and years of data he's pulling off of. So when he's giving you, it's a quick email exchange. This is not, cost challenging or anything like that. And you're feeding his database of information as well, which is going to help advance research.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. My gosh, you have some great people on board who can get to the bottom.
There's a lot of power behind our guardians. So I feel very honored that they were all, willing to be a part of our program and, understand the bigger picture here, that we're just trying to spread the proper information to help communities and help research so we can actually make change, since there is obviously a problem, right? There's so many people, and anybody I talk to that actually is in this tick space, it's the same story over and over. So it's time that we, you know, actually gather together and make as much stir as we can, at least on what the current protocol is and what the right answers are for some of the basic things like tick checks and tick removal, and letting people know, you know, maybe it's not the best idea to, you know, go feed a ton of deer in the wild, you know, and bring them to your house and up to your yard. I'm serious. I see it. And I'm like, and now knowing what I know now, and I'm just like, if people understood what's really happening across the board, you know, I see, you know, in Florida, I have people in our own community that thinks ticks don't even exist in Florida. And then I'm talking to our experts and they're getting ticks sent in from Florida every day. So there's just not enough baseline information out there. And I'm hoping that all of us and all of our extensive networks and our own communities can all come together and really make a change and impact.
Well, Kelley, I just want to thank you for your dedication to this journey and all the wonderful things that have come out of a simple tool that you stumbled across when your daughter was very young. And I want to thank you for giving back to the community. Her product is called the Bug Bite Thing, and it's a combination right now of two tools, which is a suction, plastic suction device, and then the proper tweezers with the proper, there they are.
Yeah, so our suction tool, we have a combo pack. We just launched multiple colors with our suction tool in a combo pack. We also just sell our suction tool, and we also just sell our tick remover. Our suction tools available in most big box retailers, Walmart, Target, and then our tick remover should be available for purchase in stores next year. So we're very excited
or
about
at the tickchicks.com or on my Amazon store. And also, so I want to thank you so much for coming. I'm sure this is not the last we will talk to you, because I'm sure there are many things, many products, and much more information down the road, as well as the Guardian Angels, or the Guardians Against Ticks campaign, I should say. Or the Angels.
Yeah, that's a good secondary name. I love it.
Charlie's Angels.
I don't mind it.
I think I can do it. And Laura, in closing, can you talk to us a little bit about the importance of donating to Global Lyme Alliance and where that money goes and why it's important?
It's so important, Allie. I mean, for every time you encounter misinformation or guidance that is counter to the guidance you just got, right side of that, the only way we're going to solve and clear up that murk is by funding research. I mean, that is just so important. So every dollar we raise allows us to say yes to one more project, which is going to move us closer to a solution here. The key things that we're really focusing on right now at GLA is better improved diagnostics. The diagnostics we're using today were created when we were still using typewriters. It has not changed since then. So we need more sensitive diagnostics earlier in the time frame. Right now, the recommended window is 6 weeks post a bite. You could find that tick and not know and not test positive until 6 weeks in. You're symptomatic, or you find a tick, or you have a bullseye rash, go right away and start antibiotics. But we need a much more sensitive, direct diagnostic, something that's going to look for the bacteria, not for the antibodies created against the bacteria, which is what we're using today. So GLA is funding critical early research that is now moving along the research path to get out to market, to have a better diagnostic. And then we need a treatment that's better than broad spectrum antibiotics. So right now, doxycycline and 2 other antibiotics are really the only path forward, which could kill the bacteria for most people, but it's also going to kill a lot of other bacteria that you need in your body, your gut microbiome, which really controls your immune system. So we need more precision therapy for this, and we need some medicine on the market that can take down the spirochetal bacteria that creates Lyme disease without destroying your entire gut. So there is incredible work happening right now, phase 1 human clinical trial for a potential therapeutic that would really only care about spirochetal bacteria. It's not going to care about anything else. So it's horrible for a sinus infection, but fantastic for Lyme disease. And so when you support GLA, you're supporting research that's moving this along. Also, other therapies that are out there that patients are trying today because they don't have those approved medicines. We are studying things like ozone therapy. What is happening here? Why are some patients feeling relief and others are not? How can we make this an improved experience? And so when the community, as Kelley was saying, when we're listening to our community saying, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm trying, this is how I'm feeling, GLA can respond to that with real solid research to say, this is what's happening, this is how we understand it, to help move the entire industry forward. So supporting GLA means you're contributing to this entire solution. And guys, with time pressure and resources, this is a solvable problem. We just have to get really loud about it. So that's what we're doing today.
I have no doubt in my mind that with the teaming of you two, it's going to be, it's just, you're going to take everything to the next level. And I'm talking to two wonderful, powerful human beings in this Lyme disease community. I am honored to have talked to you, Kelley Higney, and you, Laura MacNeill, and I'm excited about this new partnership that you two have. And the passion alone behind the message is really incredible. And that's what it takes. It's going to not only take telling people one time or two times, but multiple times, and really ingraining in their minds and memories that there is a proper way to do this, and it can save you years and years, if not a lifetime, of a lot of uncomfortable conditions associated with Lyme disease. So we are wishing everybody out there well today. Please give to GLA. Please go right now and order your bug bite thing tools. There are only 2 tools that you need to worry about. They are affordable and you need them at your fingertips. Thank you, ladies, again for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Some additional information about the bug bite thing tick remover. This tool safely removes embedded ticks of all sizes, types, and levels of engorgement. It's approved for use on both people and pets. It's made of stainless steel and both chemical-free and reusable. It features a patented double-side design with a fine-tipped tweezers side for removing small ticks, which the CDC recommends using for tick removal, and also a slotted scoop side for removing large ticks. After the tick removal, use Bug Bite Thing suction tool to help remove any remaining tick saliva from the skin, an irritant that can cause skin infections. Again, we are not suggesting this is going to prevent Lyme disease, but the sooner that you react to that, that venom and that saliva that's been and bacteria that's been put in your body, we figure that the more help that you can give it, probably the better. This will not hurt anything. You can go on to Bug Bite Thing website and see a video on how it works. The price is $11.99. It's available at Amazon and the bugbitething.com, and as well as the tickchicks.com.